and welcome to the Chatbox. My name is Kim Subanda. And of course, on the Chatbox, this is where we talk all issues affecting society. And this Men's Month is no different. Of course, we will be talking about men's mental health issues and many more that are affecting today's generation. And of course, I am not walking this journey alone. I will be discussing all things to do with the gents. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Awesome. And yourself, Kim?
Of course, I've got Apostle Dr. Joe Daniels. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Yourself, eh?
I'm great.
Great.
And today, new in the studio is Mertha Mo Nyamande, who is an integrative psychotherapist and a psychological trauma specialist. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you very much.
You're right, Mertha.
I am perfectly okay, actually.
All right, so I'm going to start with you. Why do you think men are less likely to seek for mental health advice, mental health help, whatever it may be, or solutions?
Well, we actually want to be seen as if we know what we're doing, even when we don't. A lot of the time we actually don't know anything, but we just go out there and pretend we know it all. We've got it under control. So a lot of us are actually struggling whilst we are going around doing what we're doing. What's interesting is if you're to stop someone and say, what are you doing? They might actually stop and wonder, actually, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
I'm not sure what I'm doing. So we don't really do that because we just think they know what they're doing.
Okay.
So one of the things that's really critical is a lot of us have gone through a very long time without knowing what it is that we're supposed to be doing as men. This whole role that men play, they're providers and they're all sorts of things. But that's not the role of men. And this is where the biggest confusion comes in. So for a long time, we've been going around just following the wind. And now we just think, oh, that's just the way to do it.
If you ask me, the role of men is they are providers, but I don't know. Let us find out from the institution of the church with the apostle. What is the role of men?
I think it depends with the setup.
Okay.
But naturally speaking, I think men are problem solvers.
Okay.
Most of the times. When you look at what the Bible says, it says when God created man, in fact, before that, Genesis chapter 2, it says, nothing grew on the earth, for there was no man to till the ground. So no crop grew. So you find out God rested the day he created man. So naturally, there's a natural instinct of solving problems. And when you become a problem solver, you assume the role of a leader automatically. So when you come into a marriage setup, you find that, there's so much expectations from the society, from a family setup, because there's this, and when you can't solve a problem like what he's saying, it affects you. That's where the mental health issue comes in.
I want to talk about, like as we are growing up, I remember there was a cartoon that said, be a man, and they would have all these cartoons that were building walls and all these things. But now, Hans Muruma Achemi, first of all, and then a man is strong. A man has to, you need to man up. What is meant by that? And how does it affect men on a mental health scale?
So like what we were saying earlier on, I like the concept that men are problem solvers. But where are we going with our problem solving? We need to have a path or a vision that we're working towards, and we're problem solving towards that. So with the men don't cry and all that, of course, crying is a way of communication, all right? It's mainly used by children when they're uncomfortable. They can't say, my pamper is wet. They can't say, I'm hungry. They can't say, I'm in pain. They cry. So you, as the mother or the adults in the room, you then figure out what is it that this child is struggling with, and you notice the pamper is wet. You change it, and baby is laughing again, right? So as men, if you are crying, you're getting to a point where you have failed to problem solve. Now, when you do cry, who then are you expecting to problem solve for you? So when you're failing to problem solve, we're then saying, go and seek help there are other people out there who know how to help you solve your problem instead of crying.
All right. So Apostle, recognizing the limitation, but again, I will ask, what are some of those signs of poor mental health that we are seeing that are often overlooked? I might say poor mental health, but what are some of the signs, all right, as society that we are missing on men, on the boy child, that are being overlooked? Could it maybe, is it the aggression? Is it the overlaughing? What is it that we are missing as a society when a man needs to get help?
I think drug abuse is one of them. He's trying to run away from a problem, but it offers a temporary solution. And then also sometimes the violence that you see in marriages, it shows again that there's something going on, and that level of communication, because like what he said, crying is communication, violence is a mode of communication as well. Yeah. And then also isolation. You see that? The idea of not wanting to spend time at home, because the situation is not bearable. They can't provide probably solution. And so forth. So they end up finding comfort in spending time elsewhere. So, I mean, these are some of them. Even theft, going around pickpocketing. It's a sign not everyone does those things because they want to. Sometimes a crisis pushing men to do those things. So there are plenty of things that show that there is a mental health issue with men.
And what do you see are some of maybe the hindrances of stigma? Kuti isusu as a society tukuwa na nguwa yekuti murume sho angawana rubatsiro like this. What are some of those things we are doing as society that stop men from going out to look for the help or the assistance that they need?
Yeah, from a church setup, you rarely see men falling in church.
Okay.
When they are prayed for.
All right.
They actually have this resistant.
Yes,
why? Because adzokera kumanosvika achitsekwa nemukadzi. It becomes an issue that people talk about. So the idea of opening up is actually an issue, like what he's saying, that it also takes some kind of understanding that I have a problem. Most of the times you may recognize you have a problem, you can't solve it, but you keep fighting, applying the wrong solutions. Because ukaza approach the solution, you see that. If they go and report kuti the abuse kwa mumba nemkazi, maybe the wife is the one beating the man. Just the idea of going to report to the police.
What will people say?
So there's just a lot of things that goes on around, but out of it all, they're just saying, Guti, I like the point that Mertha said, Guti, when you share your problem, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And I think most men need to hear this.
All right. Okay, so when you show your weakness, it is something that should be shunned upon, but of course it should be celebrated because men, after all, are human. We'll be back right after the break to discuss more. Welcome back to the Chatbox, where we are discussing issues that affect us in everyday society. Particularly in this episode, we are talking about Men's Mental Health Month, the issues of men and how we as a society can support them. I'm not talking about this issue alone. Of course, I've got Mertha with me, who is a psychotherapist extraordinaire, of course, and Apostle, as usual, to make sure that we walk and talk the right way. Not also because the mutore wa rume chaiwo machinda chaiwo. So let's talk about the tradition ehuchinda. What has society framed a man as, and what is it not? Mertha, I'll come to you on that one. But the reality on the ground, what is the role of a masculine man?
Right, so this is where we started to say we really need to understand what the role of a man is. So I want to start looking at it from, I want to give a more relatable biblical explanation that men are disciplinarians.
Okay.
Okay, what I mean by that, I'm not saying they're the ones to carry the can and whip everyone, but they are the torch bearers. They are the ones who paint a vision and say, you know what, Kim, this is where I want to take you and the family. This is where I want to take the nation. This is where I want to take the clan, all right? So that's what the role of man is, and then share that vision and sell that vision to people around him, his wife, his children, to say, okay, this is what I want to do with you, and therefore this is what you can do to help us all get there. So because most of us don't know this, we think our job is just to provide more games, more money, more food, more this, more that. But where is all that more taking us to? Yeah? Do we have a vision? Do we have a goal? Do we have a plan in place that we're actually going there? So these are the things that men really need to understand. Jesus was a leader who had 12 disciples. And those disciples, basically the word discipline comes from the following. What are you following? And what are you leading? So we need to understand that concept as men to say, where am I leading my family to?
Apostle, I think we've got evangelist in the building. In the same vein, let's talk about this. Apostle, write the vision and make it
plain.
Yes, very plain and clear. But there are roles that he has spoken about, that genders are there, and there is a woman and there is a man. And from the beginning, there were roles. They may not have been written, but they were there. So I want to know, in what ways do the gender roles limit men, their ability to express themselves and show up in society?
Yeah, I think social media has become very toxic because it has changed the role of men in a way. We are seeing some men who are becoming women. Yeah.
Hey.
You know, in court.
Transforming.
Yeah. And I really think the problem goes beyond just now. It comes to the society as a whole.
Okay.
Right? I think women are more prepared for their roles than men. You see that? Exactly.
Better than men do.
Exactly. Because msikana enda mkitchen achibika. Mkomana angogara. You see that? Because that's what they see their father do every time, holding a newspaper. And then now, or probably the husband, the boy would come into the kitchen, help cook mamuza. Now, when marriage time comes now, Kim is more ready than I am. But for Kim to play her role, the kitchen role, the doll role that she was playing during the time of her childhood, she needs a kitchen. And for that kitchen to be available, it has to come from a man. You see that? So when we
Exactly.
So chakunitsa mind chokuti that role of provision, like what he said, I think it's a matter of relevance. You marry for a purpose. I don't really believe you marry for emotions. Emotions came after. You have to discover yourself first, because men gives identities. In fact, the word father comes from the Greek word pater, where we get the word paternal. And the word paternal means source and sustain of life. Someone who defines the life that comes. So for you to define the life, you have to have a vision, like what he said. So that role now, you have a vision. You provide a person who's relevant to your vision. You love a person who's relevant to your vision. So a woman comes in as a helper. So all the food and the what maintenance support vision.
I want to go into the situation where we find men and women now in these relationships. They have these children. Last week, I heard someone say to me that men after divorce are facing mental health issues because they're being affected more by the breakup, which I thought was like, What do you mean when they're the ones, as a woman?
Yeah.
But since we're talking about men, what's really going on? Apostle, I'm going to let you weigh in on that first. What is really going on? I know last week we were saying, Apostle, put it away. And then now they're the ones crying. I don't understand. Apostle, please help us with that little situation.
I think like when every man, when they marry, like I told you, they marry for a purpose. So ndarora ndaita mukadzi wangu. Ndinorora everything I start doing, I do it ndine ramangwana redu tese. So I'm fighting. The moment you start showing signs of you can't be trusted, it brings some kind of insecurity. It affects everything I do. So if you are not disciplined for where I'm taking you, and somehow divorce happens, we start having problems that I can't solve, that later on lead to us going separate ways. It affects me more because I feel like I have wasted time in investing in a business that is not profitable, if I may use that term. Is that so? We become so heartbroken. Kuti, like I really wanted this thing to work, but I can't force a person to be like this. You see that? I believe that's where.
So there's a part of women that are also failing a man.
Failing a man, because I'm starting this with tomorrow in mind. So, but you're not understanding where we are going.
Okay.
So I'm probably saying, no, you don't have to be like this for the sake of our vision, where I'm taking you. But then he says, no, you are not giving me my freedom. I want my time.
All right, so that's Apostle and Mertha right here. We're discussing the issues that affect men in everyday society. We'll be back right after the break to find out about how we can have solutions and get the right systems in place. We'll be back. Welcome back to the chat box. And of course, we continue with the issue of men's mental health in Men's Mental Health Month. And of course, now we want to talk about those systems and the solutions that we need in our everyday homes. Now, I'm going to come to you, Mertha. I read something the other day that said that during COVID, we found that a lot of men went out to be providers. Right, and women stayed in their formal jobs online and working. And then when COVID was announced to be over and we could move on, a lot of men couldn't go back to their jobs or decided not to because maybe at the time, fire. And then now the women have gone up the ladder, they've educated themselves, they've had time to do that during COVID, and they're now in corporate Zimbabwe. And they are now the providers. Men, and you find yourself at a place where the woman is now the provider. Do we still need to find a place for women to respect men? Because we defined it as men are the providers.
So this is what we're saying earlier on, to say we really need to understand the role of the men. It's not really about providing. As I was saying earlier on, I think if we understand pre-colonial times, before the technology, before the whites came along, we had hunters and gatherers, okay? Our mothers were the gatherers. They gathered the daily meals. Everything that the families was fed on was provided by mothers. Dad would go away for months and he would then bring kamembwe, katsuro, or whatever he brings after that long period of time away. So if you're looking at the provision, moms have always been the providers. So what we then need to look at here is dad coming in, even though he is not bringing the bread home, does he have a vision for the family? That's the most important thing. Is he maintaining the disciplinarian role? Is he painting a picture of where he wants to take his family, whether he's got money or not? Because when he does that, whoever's bringing in the money can see where the money is going, so it won't be an issue. It won't be my money because you can see where we are going with this. But if you don't see anything, he's just sitting there reading the newspaper and getting drunk, and there is no vision, this is where the problems start. Because you are abusing my money. When you were working, it was okay for you to abuse your money, but now this is my money. As much as it's our money, I don't see you doing anything meaningful with it. So what's the vision that you want us to use this money for? This is where I think the problem with women bringing their money in there and that money being abused becomes a problem.
Okay, Apostle, what is your view on this one?
Yeah, because of absence of what Mertha is saying, we end up having women who fashion their own visions within the
So it is the fashioning of visions by women
exactly
that is the problem. We
Exactly.
must maintain the vision of the man,
Exactly.
even if I have money.
Yeah. So when the woman starts, when they manufacture their own vision, maybe that guy, because he doesn't have a vision, they feel intimidated. Some of them, they feel intimidated. They start-
Emasculated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They start putting to my rules to sinabasa.
So varume vanogona
Jaira.
vachitibata zvakashata mudzimba umo lack of vision.
You see that? You see that?
It might be, the vision might be there, but he's failed to sell it to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Write
that
the
happens,
vision
Yeah, down.
and make it clear.
So that
Exactly.
who reads it may run with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So once we have a vision, once the woman has a vision, it means she's following a different path. Because it's difficult for a man to follow the
A
vision
woman.
of a
The
woman.
woman.
Yeah.
It's unnatural.
It's unnatural. Because remember the definition of submission, it's submission, putting yourself under a
Under
the
mission,
mission.
not the man.
Okay.
So women naturally, they follow the mission, that the man is carrying. So in such cases now, sometimes he might start saying that I have got my own vision.
What
you don't
about when the
support me.
vision changes? I'm going to ask this one. It's not on script, but I want to ask it. What about when the vision changes? You have walked a path with a woman for a long time, with your family for a long time, and then the dynamics start to change, and you have started a different vision elsewhere.
Well,
With
are you
another.
communicating that?
Okay. It needs to be
It
constant.
needs to be
Yeah.
communicated.
Okay.
This is where that crying business
Happens.
Let's communicate. If the vision is, visions do change. Yeah, we might have 2030 looking at certain things, but then we could then change that. Actually,
By
realize we need something else rather than what we wanted
good.
for 2030. So let's communicate that so that everybody then knows that we are shifting. So
Or we
we
are
shift
adding.
together, or we're adding.
All right, so let's talk about the spaces and places that men need and the resources that men require for them to be able to feel free to talk about their mental health issues.
So at the moment, we don't have a culture of therapy and counseling and talking about our issues, because there's always been that kufagwe murume kubuda urai and all that.
And not to Buddha, Joshua.
You know. So what we need now is we need a new culture where we need to learn to understand that going to talk to someone, going to seek help, like we're saying at the beginning, again, it's not a weakness. It's recognizing that inini I am an engineer, right? But for me to make this engine work in a vehicle, I need a tire fitter.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with tire issues.
I need an auto.
So I need an auto electrician who then makes the wiring work. So this is what we need to understand. Our roles have limitations. So we need to bring someone else to kind of merge with, so that we collaborate and create something that works.
I think we have a long way to go, as you'll hear a lot of men say, andiudzwi zvokuita mbamangu
Exactly.
neumwe murume.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Apostle, I'm going to come to you. Kusaudzwa zvokuita neumwe murume kana mukadzi mudzimba dzatinenge tinadzo, muupenyu hwatinenge tinawo sevarume. Let's talk about the suicide rates of men that are not wanting to reach out and talk about their issues.
It's terrible and it's painful. I think just collaborating with Mertha's point, I think that's why we've got less men in church. Because church requires some level of acknowledgement that it's impossible with me, but there's someone better who can make
Yes.
it happen. So when you don't share, you suffocate. When you suffocate, you can't breathe.
You can't
When you
breathe.
can't breathe, you're left with one option. You think committing suicide is the solution, yet it's not.
Yet it's not.
Yeah, so we're encouraging men out there to look for Mertha, look for someone they can trust. Don't surround yourself with people who are always at the same level with you or under you. You need people above you. Even the Bible says, it says, older men teach younger men. So there's always that hierarchy where you can look for people who are more wiser than you, and ultimately God, learning to kneel down and
Pray.
get that.
Your last words, Mertha, as we go.
Just to add on the suicide part, usually when people commit suicide, they've got this overwhelming amount of pain that they're carrying. Essentially, they want to kill the pain, but that pain has somewhat become entangled with themselves. So they can't separate between how do I kill this pain without killing me. So in trying to kill the pain, they kill themselves as well. So what we are saying here is, whatever it is that you're going through, there are solutions. You might not have the solution yourself. Like I said earlier on, as an engineer, you might not know how much
Sugar is needed in a cake.
exactly. So you need to then talk to someone who understands that actually the problem that you're going through, this is what's missing. You've grown up in this kind of situation, and therefore you have not learnt this, but there's a way you can learn it later on.
So there you go. We can have so many cooks to the pot, but the right thing to do is to learn to identify who you are in your masculinity. We are talking Mental Health Month this month, and it is all about the men, finding the solutions, creating the systems, and opening up to talk to someone. This is the Chatbox, where we talk all things to do with society. Until next time, bye-bye for now.